Gestapo came in '43, they just took everything that we had. We lived in a flat, as you did, in the center of Berlin, an apartment. And when I came back from school that day, it was all sealed. And neighbors in the house told me that I must go away because the Gestapo were waiting for me. Mm-hmm. And so I never had the chance to
get any of your
to get anything, any belongings. It was all gone. It's only the memories, and that's getting a bit shorter.
It's nice to share your memories though, because in 2015 now, you're like the living witness, and you're the surviving memory, aren't you?
Yes, and of course then I suppose when my generation goes, which we must do sooner or later, then yes, I think I said to you before that I never wanted to or could talk about it for many reasons. Mostly I wanted to protect my family. I didn't want them to have any baggage to carry. I wanted them to grow up normally. And I think now what you are doing is, I was uneasy about it at first.
Of course, yeah.
Because it's not really me, but I think in memory of my brother and sister, innocent, beautiful children, for them to have been murdered like that, I maybe owe it to them to talk about it in the hope that it might never happen again.
I think I'd be proud of you as well. I think it'd be a proud moment for them as well.
Thank you.
You're very brave. No, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. After the Gestapo came, I was virtually walking in the streets. I had nowhere to go. And I met a friend who said, I know a lady, she's also half Jewish, and I think she'll take you in. And she did. Then we were bombed out. And that's when I was picked up by the Gestapo and sent to the labor camp. I could obviously never have gone into a household or onto a farm. Nobody would have accepted me. I couldn't have done that, but she would, and that was very brave. She lived in a flat at the top of the hospital, and I personally looked after her. She daren't let me go anywhere else in case somebody became suspicious who I was. That's where I stayed until the end of the war. Suddenly somebody came to the hospital and gave me a piece of paper, and on it there was an address in Berlin, in another part of Berlin, where my father was living. He was in a partly bombed out house, and then of course he contracted TB, couldn't go to a doctor of course because officially he didn't exist. So basically when I discovered him in 1945, he was dying. Now, by this time, the Russians had come into Berlin, and there was actually fighting. The Germans were on one side. The hospital was not supposed to be defended. We had a Red Cross on the top of the roof, but of course, the German soldiers did defend the hospital. So that meant there was a lot of fighting going on, and the hospital was destroyed. It wasn't bombed, it was destroyed by the fighting. But before that happened, I was able to go to my father every day, look after him, because he had TB, and he was already dying. That was quite clear. I took him a little bit of food. I helped to bring the patients out. They were all in the ground on the 7th of May. I just left. I wasn't prepared to stay anymore, and I ran over the other end of Berlin to my father, and there they were fighting on both sides, and I never got even as much as a little cut. I just so lucky in so many ways. And I got to my father, and down in the cellar, we were all in the cellar in this house, and my father kept on saying to me, now, please, you must not mention who you are, because at this particular stage, it can still happen. There were young boys had taken up arms, and they were shooting. So if they'd known who I was or who my father was, they would have just killed us on the spot. And my father made absolutely sure that he survived until the last shooting had stopped in Berlin, which was the 9th of May, where we were in Berlin, in the center of Berlin, and then he died. And well, that was the end of the war, and that's when I had to bury my father. This friend saw an advertisement in the German papers in 1949 appealing for girls from the age of 18 to come here and train as nurses. So I came with her, and we were sent to Scotland. I wanted to go to Israel because to me the concept of a home country for the Jews was very important indeed. For the first time they would have a home of their own. It didn't happen. I fell in love and met my future husband, and I stayed here. I came in 1949 and I met my husband in 1950. My husband got a job as a general practitioner in Guisborough, yes, where he worked for over 30 years. There were so very many good Germans who helped us. To this day, I can't understand the people who operated the trains to take us wherever we had to go. But the many Germans in Berlin, certainly, who helped us, none of us would have survived. Germany is a very different country indeed. And I think that has to be recognized. Generation now cannot be held to account for what their parents or grandparents did. No way, it cannot be. Nothing to do with them at all. Never, no. They must go forward and lead a good life, move on.